And Maiv PAC has three very important issues on the table that involves education, healthcare, and what is the third one? And economics. So working in the court system, what I see a lot is a lot of domestic abuse cases come to court. A lot of children are left in broken homes, international marriages, polygamy, DWI, drugs. And a lot of times, you know, we have a lot of Hmong families, especially women and children who are uneducated, who comes to court, who's been abused, and they don't have anywhere to go. They don't know how to fill out the form to get a order for protection. And people are asking me, you mean there are that many cases in the court system? I work full-time as a court interpreter, and there's 88 counties in Minnesota. So I work throughout Minnesota as well as Wisconsin. I go as far as Washington State, Colorado, Portland. I go everywhere to interpret for Hmong people that need an interpreter. And one of the reasons that it's close to my heart is that when judges when people want to run for a judgeship, or when they're up for re-election, who do they come to? The Hmong community, right? They want us to organize our people to vote for them. But like I was telling the judges and candidates that are running for seats, once we get you elected, what can you do for us? What can you do for my people? So me as a person, I can make a lot of noise, and I can donate a lot of money to them, but as one individual, it's not going to make a big impact. But as a group, as Maiv PAC, we make a big impact, and we make a lot of noise, and when we're recognized as a PAC, that we can make a difference. So that's the reason why I joined Maiv PAC. When I was working as an interpreter for the state, I had to be very neutral because of the high-profile cases that I interpreted for. I've done traffic cases, felony, rape, murder, gangsters, all those things you see on TV. I've done all of that. So I have to remain very neutral, and I couldn't get into the political realm. But now that I resigned from the state and I own my own business, I can be more vocal about my choices and about being involved and being active in choosing the candidates that I want to vote for. So Maiv PAC was a perfect timing for me to get involved and to share my resources. Knowing a lot of judges and attorneys is also a plus for me. Judges are supposed to be neutral, but a lot of attorneys I know have a lot of money and a lot of connection. So me being involved and bringing in my people and my resources to Maiv PAC makes a big difference, and that's the reason why I joined Maiv PAC.
Okay, so my name is Chua Vang, and I'll just tell you a little bit about my background and why I'm involved with Maiv PAC. My parents were one of the first people that came here to the United States in 1976. So when we first came here, we lived in Marion, North Carolina, and there was only two other families, which were my two uncles. And in that small town, you know, it was really racist. It was really hard for my parents to get education or even to get a job. So when my dad found out that here in the city of St. Paul in Minnesota, there was a big community of colored people, but not only that, but there was you know, good access to jobs and education. So he decided that in the early 1980s, he would bring his family to Minnesota. So when we moved to St. Paul, Minnesota, we lived in the Mount Airy projects. And I lived in the project since I was a junior in high school. And every summer when all my friends, especially my American friends, went to summer school or went to Girl Scout camps or summer programs, I couldn't go. And the reason why I couldn't go is because I was the second oldest out of 7 kids. And not only did we live in the projects, but we didn't have money. My parents were educated at all too. It was really hard for my dad to find a job. So during the summer, along with like all the other Hmong families, we went to Farmer John's farm in Rosemont and Benedict, okay? So that's what we did to make money, to make ends, to get our school supplies, to get our tennis shoes, to get our school clothes. It wasn't a lot, but it made ends meet. And one summer, I think this is when I was going to junior high school. My mom was like, okay, like this summer you kids can sign up for any summer programs that you guys want to do. I'll pay for it. And all of us kids were so happy. And then the summertime came, bam, like my mom decided to buy a plot of land. So then we started selling vegetables at farmer's market in Minneapolis for a very, very long time. That's a little bit part of my story, but along the way, both of my parents did finish high school, and my dad went to go on to college. And he went to Mankato, where it normally took him 4 years to finish college. It took him actually 8 years because he was, not a very good English speaker, but it was very hard for him too, and he had a family here in St. Paul. So he went on and he finished and he got his bachelor in social work and he got a minor in accounting. And then after my dad finished school, he came to work in the city of St. Paul. And when he was working there for a couple years, he was making money. And then when he decided to go work to UCare as a case manager worker there for about a year, they laid him off because they said that his English wasn't good, but they also wanted somebody who was younger and more professional. And so from there, my dad was very sad and didn't know what to do because now he had like 7 of us kids and we're still in college and high school and elementary. So then my dad decided to start his own business, and then from there he was able to buy my mom her first house on the east side of St. Paul that they still live. So it was very heartwarming and very touching that my dad promised my mom that so he fulfilled that dream. So I think from there we all learned as kids that education was the key to success, okay? So a couple of years ago, one of our founding members from Maiv PAC, Thao, invited me to go to meet with a bunch of people, and they wanted to start this forum called Sewing Our Future Together. And it was an education forum about Hmong students and Hmong education. So I went along with her, and I don't know, by the end of the night, I ended up being the chair of, of the forum and asking money, and was also chair of fundraisers. So I was asking money, begging money. And so we did this forum, and to my surprise, there was over 200 people that attended the forum on the education of the Hmong students here in Minnesota. And what I learned was very disheartening about the education for the Hmong students. Not here, but in the city of St. Paul, people of color make more than 30% of the population. There are more than 10,000 Hmong students in the city of St. Paul that go to public school, but yet we are not meeting the MCC test score levels. We are not getting the education that we need. We are not getting the access and the resource that we also need to accomplish beyond high school. If we look at the data, only 20% of Hmong between the ages of 24 to 64 have a bachelor's degree or higher. When we also look at the data, the Hmong students who are in second and third generation are already hitting poverty. They are barely finishing high school, or if they continue on, but only less than 20% do come back and get a degree higher than that. So after the forum, I felt really sad and I didn't know what to do. So I had this crazy notion that I can change the world, and Sue Chan here was a part of my journey. So in early 2015, in February, I had 3 months going into the DFL convention, for the city convention, to endorse 4 DFL candidates for the school board. So those 3 months, I worked so hard. I worked off my butt. I mean, there was 14 of us fighting for 4 seats for the DFL school board. What I learned a lot was that a lot of the candidates that weren't pushing issue for especially people of color, They were not pushing issue for Hmong students, the EL, the newly immigrants, the Korean, Karenni, or Romo, not even the Native Americans or the Hispanic, or even the LGBTQ, or even the special ed students. So it was very disheartening for me. And so I based my campaign on accountability, that I would be that person, but I will also do truly family engagement and go out there, engage with these people of color in the communities, and make sure that we do have somebody fighting for them at that level about the education for this, that there was also equity there as well. So running there, so when we went to the DFL convention, the city convention, Kazoua was there too, and Kazoua can attest to it. Yeah, she wasn't a delegate. So there were over 500 delegates at Washington Junior High School to nominate 4 out of the 14 candidates to get the DFL endorsement. And out of the 500 people, only less than 10% were people of color. And to my surprise, I mean, one of the candidates, she did get endorsed, but she started early. But all the people, all the candidates were there were old white people who did not even know what Hmong people who were, Korean people were, didn't understand the issue that we were facing. But they were there, and they were there to make the choices for us. And those are not the people that I said that I want to make choices for me no longer. So then I set on this journey, and I was going to make sure that I was going to educate people on how to navigate the system. And along with Sue Chan, earlier this year, we started a Hmong American caucus training. And so we taught a lot of the people that came to our caucus training how to become delegates, how to write resolutions, and how to go on to be national delegates. So Sue Chan, along with 3 other people, so we sent 4 Hmong Americans, first Hmong Americans to ever go to the national level to Philadelphia to endorse the presidential candidates. And we also sent the first Somali there as well too. But it's because we taught each other how to navigate this system, and we taught that, you know, if we come together as a community, and if we fight for the same issues and have the same values and empower each other, we can really make a difference. And then from there, just sitting on a lot of boards that didn't have no colored people at all except for me, fighting for a lot of the issue, it was really hard. And so I said to myself, I'm gonna go find somebody out there who probably have the same concerns as me, the same heartfelt issues, saying that we need to make a change. We've been here for more than 40 years, and for 40 years, they have not learned that Hmong American people can mobilize, and then we can make a difference as well too. That if we want somebody to become a city official, or even a senate, or even a school board, all it takes is just to come to the Hmong community, and we will go out there and vote for them, and they will win. And so here comes Kazoua saying that I have to come to a Maiv PAC meeting. So I came to a Maiv PAC meeting, and so I said, you know what, these are a bunch of girls that share the same values, share the same concern as me as well, and I'm going to put all my effort into it to make sure that we mobilize and that we do get this PAC out there, and that we do make changes starting this year at the Capitol.
Wow. So this is the first time I've ever heard of Kazoua. It's really amazing. So as you can see, we're all at a different place in our political journey. My journey started way back in 2001 when I worked with on Senator Moua's campaign. And that's when I first started seeing the power of being engaged in the democratic process, right? That's when we were getting voters to turn out. That's when we got the first Hmong American state senator to be elected. But after she was elected, you know, and that was also the first time I went to the state capitol. And we went and watched her get sworn in the Senate, on the Senate floor. But then I didn't go back, because then I went to law school and so on and so forth. And then when I came back, I got a job to be an attorney, and I realized, like, working on cases one-on-one, I wasn't making the kind of impact I wanted to make. And our executive director was actually going to the Capitol a lot, talking about policy issues around immigration. So I thought, oh, actually, that sounds really interesting. And that way I'm not stuck at my desk too. So I started talking to people about, you know, what do lobbyists do and what do you need to know? And I realized, actually, I have all the degrees I need to be a lobbyist, so I didn't need any more schooling. It was just a matter of me getting to know people so I actually could get a job. So I got my first job as a lobbyist with the Minnesota Coalition for Battered Women. And that was in 2009. And so in 2009, I was the only Hmong American registered lobbyist, and Senator Moua was still at the Capitol. She was the chair of the Judiciary Committee. And people would often mistake me for Senator Moua, even though we look really different. But now when you go to the Capitol, it's a totally different environment. There are a lot more Hmong Americans, there's a lot more African Americans, Somali, American Indians, other kinds of Asian Americans at the Capitol, because people are becoming very politically engaged at multiple phases and in multiple levels. And so I'm really excited to be part of Maiv PAC because I think the running theme here is that we really are stronger together. And when we combine our resources, our efforts, and our voices, and when we have one voice, it really does make a difference. Because what ends up happening at the Capitol is if I try to push a bill, and I say I want $1 million for, drunk driving prevention, but Chua says, well, I want $1 million just for dads against drunk driving. And then Kazoua goes and she says, well, I want $5 million just for kids for drunk driving. They're like, well, how are we going to distribute our money? Why is it's so confusing. What do you actually need money for? But if we all go in together and we say, we need $5 million, or we could say we need $10 million for these 3 programs, it's a lot more powerful. Right? And even here at school, as you're in these programs and organizations, if you guys go to the student government, right, and you say, all these Asian organizations need more money, and all the chairs of the Asian organizations make that demand together, you will have a higher chance of getting more money than if individually you guys are asking. So what happens in student government is actually replicated at the state level, and at the city level, and the county level. So I would say get politically engaged right now with your student government, because the way they make decisions on money allocation is exactly the way decisions are made at the state level, the federal level. And so that's kind of where my experience is, both in the law and policy side of it. And so if folks want to know more about lobbying, I can definitely talk to you about that in a little bit. But so not only have we come together to combine our resources and our networks, but we've also come together to push our racial justice, gender equity, and immigrant rights agenda. And we've identified 3 issues that we care about. We care about economic empowerment, we care about education and academic achievement, and we care about healthcare access and prevention. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about those 3 areas, and then we're going to get into Q&A, because we started a little bit late, and I think we're supposed to wrap up by around 8:30, and I wanted to give time for folks to be able to ask questions. So economic security and empowerment. We all know that if people don't have jobs or money, they can't survive. And so, here we have a few statistics saying that Hmong Americans have the median earnings of $32,000. Anyone knows of anyone who can live on $32,000? I mean, even a college graduate can barely live on $32,000. Because rent in the metro area, if you want a 1-bedroom apartment in Minneapolis, a really, really crappy 1-bedroom apartment in Minneapolis is around $1,900 already. You cannot survive on this for an individual, much less a family, right? So we need to make sure that our families have access to good paying jobs and good resources so we can actually just live and at the bare minimum. We're not even saying we want to live luxuriously. We want to be able to live at the bare minimum. And we have more children and more families living in poverty than most folks of color, minus African Americans and American Indians. But other than that, Hmong Americans have some of the highest poverty rates in the state. And we share this data not because we are proud of it, not because we want to say, have pity on us, but it's to demonstrate that the Hmong community still has a long ways to go, and that there's pockets of people who are extremely successful, and those are the ones that you usually hear about, right? But then there's also significant pockets of people who still have a long ways to go, and we will rise up faster and quicker if we all coordinate our efforts to say, we don't want just a few handful, I mean, literally, it's a few handful who are making a significant amount of money in our community to be successful. We want everyone to be successful. So that's one of our issues. And the governor himself, Governor Dayton, has said last session that he made economic disparities or economic equity a priority. And last year, $32 million was appropriated for programs to fund, more employment services to increase job opportunities.